Chapter 3. Now I wish to know why Sriguru, who was Parabrahman, the Absolute, has taken birth as a human being on earth, said Namadaraka. Son, you are blessed indeed. God's grace is on you. That is why you are so strongly impelled to know about Him. This devotion shall eventually liberate you. Your faith does stir up my joy too. Earlier I roamed the whole of this earth, but no one ever asked me to narrate the stories of Sri Guru. After so long, only you have asked me about this. Just as the ocean swells at the sight of the full moon, at the sight of an eager devotee like you, my urge to expound the same wells up within my heart. Now listen attentively, said Siddha and went on. Sri Guru is infinite, and so is his divine sport. One does not know where to start the narration of his divine acts. That is why, unless you question me specifically, it is not easy to commence the narration. However, it is never possible to express the full significance of his Leelas in speech. The Vedas describe the Supreme as the One, failing to reach whom our speech and mind turn back upon themselves. That is, his divine play can neither be comprehended fully by the intellect nor its implication conveyed by language. Listening to or reading the stories of Sri Guru's miracles is like a boat with one can really easily cross the ocean of misery-ridden phenomenal existence. During the age of Kali, men are irreligious. Such do not understand this truth and are therefore lost in the ocean. Incessant cravings for pleasure are the ceaseless waves in it. Such passions as lust and greed are the frightening creatures that infest it. The inarticulate cries of pain and sorrow of creatures constitute the roar of the surf. In order to take us safely across such an unfathomable and boundless ocean, the Guru is the helmsman. God's, that is, the Guru's grace is the favorable wind. Owing to your meritorious actions of your past lives, you've got all the means necessary to cross it without much struggle. So make sure you do so quickly. Now I shall recount the stories of Sri Guru. So saying, Siddha led Namadaraka to the confluence of rivers Bhima and Amaraja, and both of them sat under the peepal tree beneath which long ago Sri Guru himself lived. As the boon bestowing Sri Guru sat under it, that tree too acquired the blessed power and hence may be considered as a veritable kalpavriksha, the wish-fulfilling tree. Then Siddha went on, my son Namadaraka, human beings are of three kinds, those given to sensual pleasures, the seekers after enlightenment, and the enlightened or the liberated. The story of Sri Guru Charitra, is the sole refuge of all these. The seekers of worldly pleasures can gain them by either by studying or listening to it. For seekers after liberation, it is the excellent remedy to cure the illness of ignorance. The liberated ones derive supreme bliss by listening to it. It is thus their very life. The full significance and efficacy of Sri Guru Charitra is something which transcends our limited powers of intellectual understanding and verbal communication. However much we recounted, there remains much that is never revealed unless one is spiritually awakened to it by divine grace. Once there was a terrible universe deluge and the whole world was submerged by a huge flood of water. Then Lord Narayana lay floating on the coils of the divine serpent Adisesha, literally what remains as essence when all forms are dissolved, and was in his yogic trance. Desirous of projecting the world again, he manifested the creative grace Maya and originated Brahma, the creator, from it. In order to promote the creative process, Brahma too, by an act of will, created the seven great seers Marichi, Atri, Ribhu, Pulastya, Pulaha, Angirasa, and Daksha. Of these sages, Atri happened to be the one to whom Lord Datta was born. Anusuya, the wife of the great sage Atri, became famous for her devotion to her husband Pativratya. Such was her spiritual power that the hard, uneven earth turned soft and smooth for her as she walked about. Even the scorching sun and blazing fire turned cool in regard to her. The god of wind dared not blow except as a pleasant breeze for her sake. The gods presiding over nature's forces were afraid that they would lose their dignity if they defied her greatness, and so sought refuge from Lord Vishnu, the sustainer of all existence. One sage Narada, who freely moves about the three worlds, visited the abodes of Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva and proclaimed the spiritual eminence of Anusuya, which was a result of her intense, unrivaled devotion to her husband and of unfaltering vow of hospitality to visitors. Hearing this, the consorts of divine trinity, that is, Saraswati, Lakshmi, and Parvati, felt jealous of her and wept. When their husbands tried to console them, they insisted that they should find an occasion to curse Anusuya Devi, or trap her in a moral dilemma, and see that her greatness does not exceed their own. So the three gods went to the hermitage of sage Atri, described as three random guests, Atithis. Anusuya welcomed the guests with due respect and seated them. As per her vows of dutifulness, she said, "Holy sirs, you have sanctified our hermitage by a holy visit. I heartily welcome you. Please say what I could do for you." The master of the hermitage, sage Atri, has gone to the forest to perform his austerity, tapas. The guests told her that they were all very hungry and cannot wait till her husband returned home. They wanted to have food immediately. She went in after making proper arrangements, invited them for lunch. Again the guest said, "Holy One, unless you take off your clothes and serve us food in your nakedness, we shall not eat but go away hungry." On hearing their words, she smiled to herself and reflected thus, "I am totally purified by the long association with the holy sage Atri. What harm can the god of lust ever do to me? So I need fear nothing. If I do not comply with their precondition, they would go away after laying a curse on me for having failed in my duty and my promise to feed them. As they have sought food from my hands, I look upon them as my own children and not as strangers and grown-up men." Having decided thus, she said to them, "Sirs, I shall do as you wish. Come and have your lunch." Then she did accordingly. At once, by virtue of her superior spiritual power, the three divine guests were transformed into infants. At the sight of them, holy motherly love welled up in her heart, so intense that her bosom experienced lactation. She happily suckled them, and the three infants were immensely satisfied. Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, as though exhausted with their tasks of creation, sustaining, and destruction, had all enjoyed perfect rest in her lap. Then Anasuya realized that they were the Holy Trinity and was very happy. She put them in a cradle and rocked it, singing a lullaby recounting the whole incident. Sage Atri was on his way homeward, heard the song from a distance, and he knew of what had transpired. On reaching the hermitage, he glorified the Trinity thus: "O thou Supreme Spirit, you are the ultimate cause for creation, preservation, and destruction. You are the witness of the whole universe, the omnipresent, all-pervading essence of all existence. You are Lord Vishnu. You are indeed the reality, but by your divine sport you manifested yourself as the Holy Trinity for your own play. Though the universe is a projection of designs of your real essence, it is not distinct from you. Only when perceived through the illusory sense of I and mine, it looks distinct from you." As he sung thus, even while the three infant forms were in front of him, they also appeared before him in their original forms and wanted him to seek a boon from them. He then looked menacingly at his wife and said, "My dear, these holy ones cannot be reached even by the mind. They appeared here only by the power of your devotion. Tell them of your heart's wish." She replied, "My lord, you were created by Brahma for the promotion of the phenomenon of creation. Therefore I shall be pleased if you pray to the one Lord that has appeared as his Trinity to live here as our sons." Sage Atri did so, and the one spirit manifest as the trio said, "O wise sage, I offer myself to you henceforth as your adopted son. Hence I am Datta." Owing to the power of Anasuya's devotion, the Divine Trinity continued to live at the hermitage as her children. At the same time, they also left for the celestial abodes in their subtle spiritual forms and were united with their consorts. As Lord Vishnu gave himself completely, the sage named Brahma, who was charming as Chandra, infant Shiva is Durvasa, and Vishnu as Datta. The children of Atri are called Atreyas. Thus, in order to denote the Datta was his son, he became to be called Dattatreya. He is indeed the Supreme Lord himself, the goal of the Vedas. He is of the nature of reality, awareness, bliss. He is the master of yoga and wisdom, the wish fulfiller of his devotees, and ever ready to bless them at their mere thought of him. He wanders all over the creation. Durvasa was choleric in temperament, still he blesses others. Chandra sustains the worlds. The Supreme Spirit, henceforth known as Dattatreya, is indeed unbound by phenomenal existence. Yet, in deference to a curse laid on him once by sage Durvasa, he ever abides on earth assuming different human forms. This he does out of compassion for creatures on earth and for the gods. There were avatars of Lord earlier too, but all of them, after completing the mission, left off those forms and returned to their one essence in order to bless his devotees. The Lord had incarnated as Lord Dattatreya, yet he did not, like the other avatars, leave the earthly plane of existence after accomplishing his divine mission. I shall illustrate the difference. The incarnation of Sri Rama was intended for the destruction of the demon king Ravana. The avatar of Sri Krishna was intended for the annihilation of King Duryodhana and his wicked train. So after the completion of those missions, Sri Rama and Sri Krishna had cast off their physical bodies, left for the heavenly abode. But the avatar of Dattatreya was intended for the welfare of all creatures. As this mission has to be carried out as long as creation exists, it does not lay down his body and leave for his heavenly realm, but goes on wandering from place to place. Thus Dattatreya is eternal avatar of God's spirit of self-dedication to the salvation of all creatures. He manifests himself perennially as the perfect saints of all religions of the world. As Siddha thus went on enumerating the unique features of the avatar of Datta, Namadharaka expressed one of his doubts thus: Sir, Durvasa, by laying a curse on Dattatreya, has indeed done immense good to all creatures. If he was not cursed to wander about for the welfare of all, Lord Datta too would have laid down his physical body like the other avatars after the fulfillment of his limited mission. But tell me, why at all? Durvasa cursed him. Besides, how could the curse affect him who is ever above all manifestation? Siddha replied, Son, the Supreme Lord is indeed ever unmanifest, but when invoked by the power of devotion of the faithful ones, he manifests himself on the earth out of compassion for them. He is full of the spirit of endurance. Durvasa once cursed King Ambarishi, who was a devotee of Vishnu. Then Dattatreya requested Durvasa to transfer the curse to him, as he has pledged to take over himself the sufferings of his devotees. Durvasa did so, and thereby curse accrued to Vishnu, who manifested himself as Dattatreya. I shall recount the details of the story. Long ago there was a king named Ambarisha, who honored his guests as the veritable forms of Lord Vishnu. He scrupulously observed the vow of Ekadasi, the 11th lunar day from either full or new moon day. The vow consists of fasting on Ekadasi and breaking the fast before noon on the next day of Dwadasi, literally the 12th day. Once sage Durvasa wanted to test the righteousness of Ambarisha and arrived at his palace with large retinue of disciples on the morning of Dwadasi and demanded food for all of them. Ambarisha happily invited them all for lunch. Durvasa then went to the river for ablutions and deliberately delayed his return to catch the king in the horns of a dilemma. If in order to fulfill his vow he were to break his fast without waiting for the guest, it would amount to disrespecting the latter, according to the religious law. As a way out of the dilemma, Ambarisha sipped a little holy water, tirtha, for the act may be interpreted as breaking the fast without insulting the guest. The next minute, Durvasa arrived and was wild with rage. He said, "As per the letter of the holy law, you have taken the holy water as food, leaving us, the holy guests," and cursed Ambarisha thus, "May you in every one of your births wander about without an abode." The correlation between the curse and the error committed to deserve it is that Ambarisha could not await in patience the arrival of the guest, and the curse ordains that its victim should likewise be deprived of any stability and comfort in all his future births. Ambarisha, being an ardent devotee of Lord Vishnu, the later appeared on the scene and said, "O Durvasa, you being a great rishi, your curse cannot go in vain, but my devotee Ambarisha cannot stand it either, and it is my promise that I bear the burden of my faithful. You modify the curse so that I could suffer it in his stead." Durvasa pondered for a while. This Lord Vishnu is not easily accessible to devotees on earth. Hence, it is for the good of all if he, instead of Ambarisha, should wander about this earth. So, he modified his curse accordingly. It is for this reason that Lord Vishnu, as Dattatreya, has been wandering about in different forms all over his earth. The same Lord, as described in the Puranas, manifested himself as the divine fish, the divine tortoise, and others. Even in this age of Kali, he manifested himself twice. Even though these two avatars cannot be seen by the naked eyes of ordinary mortals in this wicked age, they respond to the call of devotees even today. In this age of Kali, even the good which is conceived of in the mind bears fruit within a limited time, whereas in the case of the sin, only when it is acted upon does it produce its fruit. It is only because in the age of Kali this facility exists that the Lord did not prevent the spirit of Kali from manifesting himself on the earth. However, blessed are those, O Namdharaka, who live in a virtuous manner without allowing even a single evil thought even in this Kali age.